This meeting is being recorded.
Oh, there we go. I can hear everybody else saying this meeting's being recorded. So if y'all heard that, welcome to the party. There are 3 of us on this episode of Runners Roundtable. We're talking about how to build community. And I'm joined by Cristina Ramirez and Jamie DePaola. Just love saying it like that. It makes me think of when I lived in Boston and I would hear the cops say, "Get off the car." So I just love saying your last name like that. But again, we're here. We're talking about community, and we're actually, for those of y'all who listen to this, I'll give you a little bit of a preview of where we are in time. It is Thursday, June 8th. And the 2 wonderful human beings that I'm with are people that I just went through March, April, May, June, this like 4-month journey of building community. It was 3 events. One of them was celebrating women. Well, it's been all celebrating women, but it was celebrating women in March. Then we had a 16-mile relay throughout the city of Miami. And last night, June 7th, was Global Running Day, and it was a 4-mile run. So before we get deeper into how that came together, I'm just going to popcorn it. I'm going to start off with Jamie. Tell us about yourself. So Jamie and Cristina, those are the 2 guests. I should have said that. But Jamie, I'm going to throw it to you right now and just tell us who you are and tell us a little bit of your running story.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Jamie DePaola. I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, moved to Naples, Florida in 2013. So I've been here for 10 years now. I was a competitive gymnast for the first 22 years of my life. And I guess that was my total introduction to community and sisterhood and women empowerment. My coach was a woman, and I was surrounded by that type of environment for the core part of my upbringing. And then when I moved to Florida, fast forward after college, and I moved here by myself and I knew one person. So building community is a huge thing to me. And I was a runner when I moved here, but I wasn't an ultra runner yet. I knew that was in my perspective and in my future, but I was building that myself, and along came community in that. So I started a slow progression. When I first started running, I wasn't really into it. My dad got me into it, and he started me like on a track, and I kind of thought that it was not boring, but I didn't really see the loop point until I really kind of found that place in my own world. I started like neighborhood running and kind of doing the whole nature kind of thing, and I got really connected to it. And then once I started racing and doing things where there were a ton of people around, I was just like, this is unstoppable. Like the people and the types of bonding that was happening, like through training and through races, I just fell in love with. And I started reading about ultra running and got myself kind of on a slow progression to run each distance. And I would do a distance and then a higher distance each year. So like a 50K, a 50 miler. And then I built myself up to do these 100+ mile races. And I honestly, I fell in love more with the connection and the bonding of the people than I really did. I mean, I love running and I love the activity and the sport of it, but it to me really is about like who is involved and who is there, and the spirit and the light of the people that are either crewing or running or volunteering. And it lifts me almost to tears to see how many people become involved, even if they're not running it. I just think that that's one of the most amazing things to watch and to be a part of, and then mix endorphins in there. And yeah, I'm like crying the whole time. I just think it's beautiful because there are so many things these days that aren't that raw and that vulnerable and that like uplifting together. Like there's some things just don't have that togetherness vibe anymore. And to me, it's refreshing, and it keeps that genuine, and it keeps that to the surface, like for me. So yeah, that's a little bit of where I come from.
Well, I appreciate that, because one of the things that I always say is there's so many different ways to be a runner, and those people who are crewing you and are supporting you, they're runners too. Like, even if they're not running it, they're thinking about it. They're loving someone who does it. Like, so they're runners too. And, you know, I see these big distances. And something I always say, and I think of one of my friends, because she's the one that like planted the seed in my head. She's like, I don't like running. Like, running is hard, but it's the feelings that running brings up for you. That's what keeps you coming back. And when I think of these, you know, ultra runners like yourself, where you're doing these big distances, I feel like at some point it's not even about the miles, but it's about like what you discover about yourself on the way, that the people who are coming out to uplift you. And even for me, it's like a tiny, tiny story, but I'll never forget my first half marathon. And at mile 7.5, I hit the wall. And what kept me going was thinking about my family and thinking about my kids, and of like, you know, how much they sacrificed time with me so that I could do this race. So I better finish. And it's that, like, it was the physical act of running sucked, but thinking about the people that have supported me in there, that's what kept me going. So I love that, because again, it's going to tie into what we're talking about today. Cristina, popcorn is passed to you. Tell us about yourself and some of your running story.
I'm just so grateful to be here. So Steph, thanks for asking me to be on this. And Jamie, I couldn't think of a better person to be kind of co-partnering with on this incredible journey. Okay, so my name's Cristina Ramirez. I am born and raised in Miami, Florida. I am a native Miamian. There's not very many of us that stay here, and I am diehard 305 till I die. I didn't move to Chicago after college. I went to Florida State, and my life was dancing. Like, I grew up dancing since I was 3 years old. I wanted to perform in New York City and be dancing with Alvin Ailey. That really was my goal. And through my journey of dance, which truly embodied for me community, like the people that I got to grow and learn and experience and perform and emote so many different things, from like, you know, rehearsals to performance to castings and competitions. Like, that to me was such so grateful to be kind of hugged in this like dance community, and feeling like I could find who I was in all of that. But I moved to Chicago after graduating at Florida State with a Bachelor of Fine Arts to dance in Chicago, and did not run before. Y'all, was not a runner, maybe elliptical. Like, that was my compliment to dancing, you know? But I moved to Chicago and I was dancing up there. It was way too cold. But my cousin was like, you should do this Ragnar relay race with me. That was my first like race.
Wait, me too.
How crazy. I was like, wait, you want me to run from Key Biscayne to Key West? I'm sorry, what? So I started training. I was kind of, you know, maybe dancing and using running as a little bit of a compliment. I didn't really know how to run. I was definitely a heel striker. Then I was like trying to point my toes while I was running, because that was the dancer in me. And anyhow, I moved back home to Miami because Chicago was way too cold. I didn't get the dancing job that I wanted. And there was something really cool about community within that relay race that I was doing with my cousin and her cousins. And like, and her friends and her, like, her husband was a part of it. Like, it was just so cool to see all these people from like all different parts come joining this team. And we had a support crew, and it was really, really special. I didn't run very much, but that was really cool. And then what really inspired me to run was beyond this Ragnar, was I watched my husband, at the time with my boyfriend, like run the turkey trot. How crazy. He was like running the turkey trot. I came out to cheer in Tropical Park with my mom. I was like, Mom, come, I really like this guy. Will you just like come cheer with me? And like, I watched him cross the finish line. It was his first 10K that he ran. And I was just like, yo, these people are coming out to cheer. Like, this is just so this is cool. And so then the next day was Black Friday because, it was Turkey Trot, and I bought a Garmin. I was like, if I'm going to do this thing, I need a Garmin. So I bought a Garmin, and then I don't know, we started running together. Like I really liked my boyfriend at the time, now he's my husband and I love him more. But we did a 5K together. We did a 10K. We did a half marathon together. I think what was really inspiring me to keep going was how incredible our bodies are. And it was so mental for me. I didn't know that I could do these things. I was like, I grew up dancing. Like I knew how to point my toes and lift my leg up, but I didn't know what my body was capable of doing for like a long sustained period of time. And so that motivated me, so I did a half marathon. We did a full marathon together. We started cycling just to kind of complement the running, and we did an Ironman together. I've done 3 halves and I did a full Ironman in 2015 pre-kids. We're going to do an Ironman post-kids soon, but I'm just amazed at what my body can do. And I think through all of that, I started working Lululemon when I was in Chicago, and that was really touching for me because I thought I had to be somebody specific for dance. I thought I had to look a certain way. And with Lululemon, I could be whoever I wanted to be. Like I could love dance. I could love running. I could love yoga. And I really found yoga too with Lululemon. And I was really accepted at Lululemon, and my voice really mattered in the organization. And I had all these crazy creative ideas of things that we should be doing. And I felt seen by Lululemon, and I still do. Here I am 13 years later. July 10th is actually my 13-year Lululemon anniversary, and just continuing to bring people together through different walks of life. And that's like, I feel it. Like when Jamie talks about like all the emotions that come up, like I feel that. Like I'm so lucky to be able to do this, like through running, through Lululemon, just like through human connection. Like what a gift in the world, and I do not take that for granted. So that's my life in a nutshell.
The life in a nutshell, bringing us up to date.
I'm like crying.
Yeah, I love it because it's like, oh, so part of what always fascinates me is here we have 3 women, 3 very different experiences. And what brought us together, or at least what brought everyone into my orbit, was a company like Lululemon, right? And it was because of movement. And Cristina, similarly, probably to both of you, like I didn't start running until I was an adult. I did it when I was in high school because I'm like, 30 minutes in the gym, there's a treadmill open, let me get on it and see what I can do, but not the love that I have for it now, which leads me to this question, because I am such a firm believer that we are all one connection away from falling in love with this sport. So I want to give you each a moment to just shout out who that one connection was for you. And I'll start. Mine was a woman named Jennifer Johnson. Jennifer, if you're listening to this, hi, I'm shouting you out. And it was her because I emailed her almost 11 years ago. At this point, I'm like, at this point, we're nearing on 11 years ago. I emailed her and I was like, I really want to join your running group, but I don't know if I can because I have 2 small children. And her email response to me was, my sister has 2 kids too. You can do it. Just come out and give it a try. That was such a game changer for me because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to give it a try. So she is my connection to this sport. And beyond that email, she was the one that encouraged me to keep showing up, to keep coming to the group workouts, to keep doing the training. And it was because of her and the community that she created that please people, if you're listening to this, do not ever do this. But before I had even ran my first half marathon, I had signed up for 3 of them within 6 weeks of one another. Okay. I just want everyone to know. But it was because of the community, because I loved training with the people so much. And again, training is not the same as like actually doing the races. That was a totally different experience. But she is my person that when I look back to how I really fell in love with this sport, it was because of that connection. So I want to give it to you 2, whoever wants to go first, to share who that one connection is for you and give them a little shout out here.
Okay, I'll go. Actually, I have a few, but I'll also give it to this. Her name is Jennifer as well. Her name was Jennifer Glass at the time. So my dad got me kind of involved in running, and he was a runner, and he was like, we should try this. Well, I had signed up for a turkey trot as well that originally was a 5K, and then it turned into a 10K. And I had never run. I was not at the time a runner. That was a big difference from 3 miles. And I think at the time I didn't even know what the mileage of a 10K was. And I'm like, how long? About an hour, or what are we talking? And my dad was doing it with some work friends of his. And I was probably 18, 19. And one of the ladies that he worked with had a friend, and her name was Jen. And there was a lot of hills in the race, and I was getting a little discouraged, I guess, because it seemed long and it was hilly. And I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And she said to me, and I will never, ever forget this, and it is why I ultra run: you don't ever have to stop. You just have to slow down. And I remember even if you walk, you just slow down, just keep moving forward. And she changed my whole perspective of running in general, and that stay out there, keep moving forward. You're already out here, you're doing a great job, but there's no reason to sprint it and not be able to finish, or get discouraged because you're out of breath, or just slow down. And that opened this door for me to do these long distances. I keep that in the back of my head constantly. Just slow down and you can go as far as you want. And she's such and I love her to death, but she was kind of a random connection. She was a friend of a friend of a friend that was at this race. And I honestly have seen her maybe in my life 3 times, but she made a difference and probably gave me a running career. Right. And I think she knows. I did tell her very early on, but again, this was, 15 years ago, longer. And so if she's ever listening to this.
Well, I think now you need to reach out to her. Once this is published, be like, you need to listen to this episode.
Yes, I will tell her that because she really is she's still in my phone as Jen running buddy.
Oh, yeah, you gotta text her.
I know, I'll text
her. You totally have to reach out to her. And what I love about that story is that it's so important for all of us to remember, right? The connection doesn't have to be a big, lasting, the rest of your lifetime connection. It can be that moment that just illuminates something that you didn't think. I mean, we're talking about 15 years later, and I'm sure you can still recall everything from that moment, how you felt, where you were, that the fullness of that memory is still with you. And I love that. Cristina, how about you?
I mean, I kind of share a little bit about my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. I have a whole other story about shitting my pants in my first 5Ks with him. Thank God he with me. So we're in it together for life. But beyond him and starting this just journey of learning about our bodies and figuring out how to cross the finish line, because I didn't really know what I was doing, and he was still relatively new to it. But for me, the person that sticks out, and I've shared this before, but Hector Arana, he is the co-founder of I Run Company on 50th and Biscayne. And I don't even know where to start with him, but he's such a light in my life. Raf and I, when we were dating, we started, wanting to train, and we didn't know again what we were doing. And we wanted to do a half marathon, and how do you do this, and we, I Run was very close to where we were living, and we would just show up. And I didn't know Hector. I didn't know anything about him, but to me, Hector embodies community. I don't know if I really knew, I knew about community. I'd heard the word before. I felt like I was part of something with dance, but showing up to Workout Mondays every Monday at 6:51 for a free workout with like a really incredible training plan and, 50 other runners from all different walks of life. And like, I just know Hector, he didn't even know me. He was like, let's go, Cristina. Come on, you got this. You got to keep going, and I was like, who is this guy, And yeah, I don't know, he just had this way of like inspiring people. I mean, you could be walking and he was just like there for you, at all the different parts along the course, even in the training run, he'd show up to races and like nobody asked him to show up. He's just like, I need to do this. I need to be there for my people, and that really inspired me. We also like created big ideas together. And I think, he became an ambassador for Lululemon, but he's like a friend for life. He's someone that touched me and I never let it go, that like he inspired me to to really embody community. And that for me was like showing up for your people. And like Hector does that time and time again. I mean, he's been doing it for 20 years. And it doesn't get old, and he still does it. I ask him to like, hey, be the support vehicle crew for Karen Levetsky for this relay. And he's like, Chris, I'm in. Anything that you need, like I'm in, and that friendship and that partnership means a lot to me. And I call him Pops. He's like a brother to me. I don't, he's just a really incredible human, and really for both me and Rafa, like he really brought us together too, and it's like passion for running. So Hector, I mean, I'm sure he's listening, but you're my person, man. You're my running person.
And if he's not, we're going to make sure he is, because we're going to send this episode once it comes out. We're going to send it to these people and be like, hey, you really need to listen to it.
Yes.
But it's again, these connections come from, sometimes it almost feels like unlikely places, right? Like it's someone who just told you, like, show up, just go, just do it, just show up and see. And they're there. And you take advantage of it, and it unlocks something each of you. Cristina, you mentioned big idea. Now, I feel like you have a lot of big ideas. So I want you to just walk us through the most recent big idea of Women on the Rise and how, and I love the story. I'm just going to give you all a little preview of what the story is, how it was kind of like created while the two of you were running together. Right? It's not like you were just chatting on the phone and you're like, wouldn't this be cool? It's like, no, let's actually run about this and talk about it. And the reason why I wanted to point that particular piece of the story out is because I feel like we talk about it often. I know I talk about it with my friends when we're running, where it's like running creates such immediate intimacy. There's something about running next to someone, not looking at them, but like hearing them. They're sweaty, they're getting stinky, like, you're both struggling or enjoying it or whatever the case is, but it's that experience of running together. I feel like you pull the heart out of people when that happens. Like, I don't know. I find that when I'm running with my friends, we end up talking about all kinds of things that I'm like, man, if we would have sat down and had coffee, we wouldn't have had this same level of conversation and I'm sure we would eventually, but I feel like running intensifies connections. So however you two want to tell the story of how these events came together, again, it's on you. Go ahead and share the idea and how maybe we'll take it that way. Maybe Jamie, you share the idea and the dream, and Cristina, you share the execution of that dream.
That's so perfect. Okay, so I had witnessed Cristina do the speed project, and I was like foaming at the mouth. I was like, this is insane. Looks amazing. The pictures were amazing, and through the pictures I could feel the energy, because like Cristina had brought up before, Ragnar was really my first initial introduction to community racing, like with people, and I didn't know my team either in the Ragnar that I first did. And by the end of it, we were like this bonded group of people. And I was like, this is amazing. I like mourned the loss when it was over. Like, I didn't ever want it to end. And so fast forward to, I saw the speed project. There had been, I had just kind of moved into the bracket of Legacy ambassador, and I wanted to take the legacy that I wanted to take and
So
really,
let me pause you there, because this is a question I've gotten asked before we continue on. What is a legacy ambassador for Lululemon? So that people understand.
Yes. Okay. So legacy ambassador is, or how I would view that word in my own life, taking what you are passionate about and continuing it on through your, like your own heart and soul, without maybe having, like a contract. Like, this is what you're, on paper, this is what you're living for. And I think you're taking that and mixing it with community. And to me, it's community, connection, and then my passion for running. So it kind of all does flow into this. So after I had kind of expressed it, Cristina, we had done the ambassador tour, and it was at Shark Valley. And then we got together to run, because I was like, she's so cool. And I just felt like our energy was very similar, and I wanted to get to know her too. And I felt like running would give us that extra bonding, and we were going to run and get brunch and do this like little date. And so as we were running, we were talking about the speed project, and I kind of expressed that if that wasn't available, like maybe we could do that, or if not, like how cool would it be to create something together? And at the time we were thinking of doing it just like the two of us, like maybe we should try to run from store to store to store. And it became this like, okay, so we have this idea, and now we have like ambassadors that we could create like a team with, and just talking about the 7 of us, or however many it was at the time. And then it was like aligning with all these things, because that was kind of in October. And it was like aligning with all these things, like International Women's Day. And we didn't know about the date of the shoe launch. I mean, Cristina may have, but the exact date and lineup of all of it wasn't really in the plan yet. But it started to fall into place, like, hey, that idea that we had, it's kind of lining up with like International Women's Day and the launch of the shoe, and having a community behind us to make this bigger. And each ambassador can, choose a hand-selected group of women that inspire them, or have empowered them, or are just extraordinary in their own roles in life. And yeah, it became this big idea that we had, and we were honored. I mean, I was completely awestruck of it being even presented to corporate, and then let alone being chosen. I still can't, I'm just like speechless, honestly. It's more of a feeling. It honestly is. So I'll let Cristina talk about the execution.
Yeah. I think what you bring up such a great point around like the relay process, like the speed project. We had just come off of it. And for those maybe not know, the speed project is a 340-mile relay that starts in Santa Monica in California, and then you run to Las Vegas. What? Some people do it solo. We did it with a team of 6 women for the launch of Blissfeel 1, which was the original first shoe that Lululemon came out with. And I think even fast forward when, when Jamie and I went for a run together in South Point, we went for a run down the boardwalk. It was so beautiful. It was a gorgeous day. I think some of the best ideas, y'all, they come from running. You're just in the zone, and you're you're just you're breathing next to someone, even if you don't even know the person that you're running next to, you just feel connected to them, and that's really special. So I think so we went for a run, we went to brunch, then went to the Lululemon store after, we did a little shopping at the store. And after she shared her idea, was yeah, let's how do we connect different stores, different people? There's 7 stores in Miami, how cool would it be if we could, kind of bring everybody together? And so I had the opportunity in February to pitch for an idea. He's like, hey, there's my role. My role is called the Community Foundations Lead. There's 14 of us across North America. And so we each pitched an idea, to like, how do we want to bring the new, like the Lululemon Blissfield 2s to life, And so I called Jamie. I was like, Jamie, you remember the thing that we talked about like back in October when you came to Miami? Like, what do you think about me like pitching this idea, And she was like, are you kidding? And I was like, well, I don't know. We're not get the money just yet to like put this to life, but I think we have a chance, And so we pitched, for Blissfield, like a 3-part activation. So we started with International Women's Day, the launch of the shoe, and we wanted to bring 7 ambassadors together. And so we brought 4 current ambassadors and 3 legacy. I feel really passionate about legacy ambassadors that I've told you both before, but like, yes, you're legacy and like you are a friend for life. You're a part of this community for life. And you continue to like leave that, like create impact, in your community for years to come. And that really is something that I hold like near and dear to my heart, truly. So 4 current, 3 legacy. And so like y'all came together on International Women's Day on March 8th, with the new shoes, some new product. And then, went for a run and had a really great dinner and kind of built this foundation for like what was to come. And then, fast forward a few months, we stayed connected. We like had our group text and chat and, found ways to like, just, stay connected and also like create more impact with the runners in your own communities. So it was like what we're doing here and creating this foundation. Now you get to do that, with your 5 to 8 women that are close to you, to kind of bring them and like enroll them on this like journey with us, and you get to we wanted to do the relay. That was the pivotal moment. It was like, we want to run through our, we had 5 Lululemon stores that were like easily able to run through. And so we did a point-to-point run. It was not a race, it was a run. And how cool we got to do it with people that we cared about, like your own teams. And then amongst a really like a larger, greater female empowering like run community. And it was definitely a dream come true, like planting this seed, Jamie, that you like shared this like thought, not even knowing, which reminds me, like, do not be afraid to share big ideas with people or small ideas with people, because like it's a seed that's planted in someone else's brain that you may not know that could ever come about. I didn't know that I was going to be able to have this opportunity. If we hadn't had this moment, I wouldn't have even known to pitch that, so just like grateful for that. That was really important for me. And then, to kind of tie it all together, yesterday at Global Running Day, we went to the Everglades for the Blissfield Trail shoes that just launched. And just like what an incredible 4 or 5 month journey together. So thanks for letting me share that.
I love that. And I mean, as someone who was kind of on the receiving end of that, right? I think what fascinated me the most about all of this was, one, Cristina, how you pulled everyone together, but also Jamie, you're like not even in Miami, like you're straight up on the other coast of Florida. And it's just like piggybacking off of what Cristina said about like pitching your idea, sharing the dream, because you really don't know who's going to receive it and what they can create from it. And I think it also speaks to the beauty of time, as well as to here in this random running, like this random date together, you shared your dream, and 6, 7, 8 months, however, from October till now, I don't know, however, time is so irrelevant, but in that time, you were able to create something so incredible. So now that we're here, it's June 8th, the entire dream went from seed to beautiful bloom, and it's going to continue to ripple out through each of us. Looking back on it, how are you two feeling today?
You want to go?
No, you go.
You go. I mean, my heart is bigger. Like my heart started big, but it's even bigger now. Just with like the amount of energy and love and like soulfulness, because it's one thing to have a dream and a vision and to create it and execute it, and it, and it comes out great. But like, it's also another thing when people like see you, like when people see you and appreciate the work that's put into it, it makes it even more special. And I think what's really grateful about the running community, because I feel like that's like a common thread for the most part, is that like, there's a lot of gratitude for the things that people do, because what it's like, to put something like that together. So I feel really, really grateful. That's like a word that's like a constant in my life, but I just feel grateful. I feel honored that I get to do this for my work. This is my dream job. And it's because of the people that I get to be surrounded by. And so we have built this special relationship together, like, the 7 ambassadors. And then now with like each of your teams, like they showed up yesterday to Global Running Day and like continue to be like grateful and share and invite their own friends, to be a part of that. And so I feel like our community is bigger. It's the same amount of people, but it just feels bigger. And yet it also feels like more like wrapping my arms, but like more embraced. Like I feel like we're hugging closer together today because of everything that we've gone through. And excited to continue to see it like blossom even more,
I could listen to you talk all day. I really could. Like, I just am like, I'm like just weepy. I want to acknowledge you, because a lot of times, like for me, this is how I'm going to answer this. All of this has to do with Cristina. A lot of times we dream alone and then we execute alone, and that's great. And that is, it's not that we don't have people around us supporting us, but your idea and your seed is like in your head, and then you're like, I'm going to work for this and I'm going to do this. And then, it's shared with people, but it's shared with people kind of on the end that they're receiving it like in your eyes. This was like launched very much together. Like I presented it to you as an idea and you saw it and you dreamt it with me and you felt it with me. And in each moment of execution, there was never, and let's take the never word out there. There was always that same amount of feeling that I had in the dream that I presented to you that you were executing. You executed the same amount of feeling that I had. And that is just, I think, one of the most special gifts that came out of it for me, is to be amongst so many people that were like, yeah, I'm in. And it was like, I'm just like, could cry, because having one person show up is amazing, but having that amount of people, like the 46 in the relay that were like, no question, I'm in. And then the like 80 at the Everglades, like for a sport and for a community and for friendship and for nature, like these people were all showing up for all those things. And it became this wonderful, again, 4 months of togetherness. And I'm overwhelmed in the best way of how I feel about everything that's taken place. So
I love
that. Yeah.
I want to hug you.
We're hugging closer, even though I'm in Naples. But
I love that, because I like what I get from both of you is a sense that to dream is to take a leap of faith. To invite others to dream with you is to leap blindly. And that's what both of you did, right? Like, I know for myself, again, I just got a text message from Cristina of, hey, are you free this day? And I remember saying, okay, like, and I was like, I think so. Like, for me, with that text message, I asked my daughter she had some event at school, and I'm like, hey, is it okay if I don't go to this event? And she's like, yeah, go for it. And for me, it was, I just come back to the idea of the power of saying yes, and the power of being open to saying yes, because it was for me saying, oh yeah, I am free that day, that then it snowballed into all these other events. So that's always my biggest takeaway. And that's been one of my biggest takeaways from my personal Lululemon experience, was that the power of saying yes, the power of showing up, even when you don't know who else is going to show up, even when you don't know if your words are going to travel, if your words are going to land, if you're going to have any impact, because you don't know. So that's, again, like what I gather from both of you is that it's, you're dreaming, taking that leap of faith, and then that dream and the leap gets even bigger with all the people we bring in to this, different parts of it. You know, like I myself, I was a part of a team of 5. And when I asked them, it was very much like, hey, I even told them, I'm like, it's 2 events. It's not just the relay, it's the relay and then the global running day. So I asked a lot of the people. I'm like, if you say yes, it's because you're committing to these 2 events. And the fun that you have on the run really does come from saying yes to opening yourself up to being with other people, because running is a solo sport, right? Like running is a solo sport. When you're out there, you're in your brain, and it's like, whatever, you're either your biggest cheerleader or your biggest critic when you're on that run. But even though it is a solo sport, it is a sport that is very much so supported by community, supported by, you know, I say it all the time in my household, I'm the only runner. No one else runs. No one cares. But they all understand how important it is for me. So they support me in the running that I do. That's a joke. But I just, again, for me, as being the person who was brought in from the outside, I was just in awe of what you were able to create, both of you. And again, it's that idea of a seed being planted, this dream being planted, and not knowing how it would grow. And again, you all thought of like, oh, 7 ambassadors, but then those 7 ambassadors, that rippled out to the 45 women. And then that rippled beyond that to the 80. And then that is something that is rippling. Like, I love it. I have a Lululemon relay WhatsApp group. And we added our driver to that group. And we're like, all right, you're part of it now. So like, that's like, oh, now throughout this experience, it started off with just me. And then for me, it grew to 5. And now we have another member. We have another member of our little group. So I just love that. I love that both of you dreamed, and then you kept dreaming, because Cristina, even pitching the idea, right? Like, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that they would have picked you. And yet I can guarantee you that if you would have pitched that idea to everybody, you would have found people who would have done it without the product, without anything, just because they wanted to run with their friends, because they wanted to do something unique and have an experience with their friend. So just, I love that. I love, like, the product to me was like the cherry on the top of it, where it was great to have, but it's like, it wasn't necessary, you know, like, you know, that's, and I feel like that's the beauty of community. It's where you don't need those things. They're just cherries on top of this beautiful sundae.
And I'll just share really quick. I feel like even as you shared, like we started it solo, and then like we expanded, and then we expanded more. Like, I think community is how welcoming and inclusive we can be in anything that you decide to do. Because like that truly builds community. Like when you're in service of someone else, and then you welcome them in to whatever it is, to your home, to a party, to a run, to a relay, to an event in the Everglades, like that to me is community. Like, I'm inviting you because I want to be with you.
Yeah.
You matter to me. That's community.
I agree with that 1,000%, because there were people on my team that are not necessarily runners. And it was special to me to have them because of the impact they have in my life and in the lives of others in our community. So to me, they were an important role of creating an empowerment team. Like, why wouldn't they be on the team? Yes, it's a run, but like, all right, we can walk. Look, we can skip, we can stand.
Stand
That was so funny last night. You can stand, whatever you want to do. But we want you here. And I think that involves a lot of people. It's a big bracket. This is not, this is not something that is exclusive. We are inclusive.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of, there's space for everyone. And that's something that I definitely talk a lot about, that running is more than just running, right? Like, running is the people who show up to support you. Running are the people who do intervals, or the people who decide, hey, today 1 mile is enough for me, and that's enough, right? Like, that's totally okay as well. So that's part of what I liked about this event, where it's like we had so many different life stories converging on 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days, however the different events played out. I'm curious to know, in general, beyond these events, and I feel like both of you have shared, but just because I like clarity, how has community transformed running for each of you?
Go ahead, Chris.
Unmute yourself, though.
Sorry, it's just that my son needed me real quick, so I jumped over. Say the question one more time so that I can like really embody it.
How has community transformed running for you, whether that be your participation in running or your relationship with running?
I think it's like showing up. Like, I think it's showing up for myself and then showing up for others. And like, that to me is like, I think that's the transformation, I didn't know that I could do this. I didn't know that I could run. I didn't know that was possible for my body. Like, I didn't know that I could push myself to these limits. And once I conquered that, once I believed in myself, I could be that inspiration for someone else. And I could bring them along with me. Because sometimes you're like, I can't do that. I could never run a marathon. I thought the same thing, and like, I don't just wake up one day and decide I'm going to run 26.2 miles, So you really do, it's a progression, it's a journey. And for me, it's like doing it with people. Like, for me, it's like the Hector. I think about Hector so much, his inspiration. I mean, he did the same thing for himself, at some point he was like, I'm going to do this. I'm inspired to be a runner and like a run leader. And so he shows up for himself, and then he shows up for others, and he's the impact for me, and so I want to continue to create that ripple with other people, what's possible, not just for the running transformation and crossing a finish line of whatever that means for you, but also to how to continue to bring people into the sport, and that not to be intimidated by it, and we all can be whatever we choose to be. And I mean that, I know it's very cliche, but I mean that with every inch of my soul, because I don't think it's possible until you start, or until you have one other person tell you, I believe in you, you can do this, and so that's why I show up. And I think that's what has transformed for me, as a runner, and as someone that believes wholeheartedly in community and really being of service to other people.
It's like community inspires you to be the best version of yourself, but then it inspires you to take that role of inspiration for others as well, right? Like, it's twofold. It's you are your best, and then your best calls other people to be their best as well. Jamie?
I'm going to snowball off of Cristina. And I like what you said about showing up for other people. And I think, again, for me with running, it is deeper than the actual physical part of it. I am such a deep feeler that when I am surrounded by community within the sport, I feel deeper about it, because the importance of people being together and sharing that moment together, to me, is, if I was doing it alone, I don't think I would feel as deeply about it. I think I would feel deeply in a different way, but I love the outreach that it gives, and involving people maybe that have different talents but are still able to be involved, like the volunteers. Like, okay, so maybe you don't run anymore, but you did at one time and you love it so much. That doesn't mean that you're out. Like, you can go and crew or run an aid station or do, and still be such a part of the energy that is there. And I did a race in Moab in March, and actually there was her name's Lulu. Her name is Lulu, and isn't that crazy? And I love her to death, and she's from Florida. Well, she just so happened to be in Moab volunteering because she loved, and I traveled by myself. I went out there by myself, and to see her there, like, ignited this fire in me that was insane. And it was, one, because I knew her and I'd already had a connection with her. She had helped me through another race that I went through in Florida. But like, having her there then in another state and seeing her face and her energy just was amazing. So I think, to me, to not have the community would totally change the sport. I mean, it wouldn't be the same sport without the people that show up to run or volunteer or, be a part of it in any way that they can.
It makes me think of that saying, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's if you ever lose your faith in humanity, go watch a marathon.
It's the truth. It is the absolute truth. And these long overnight races that I am sometimes a part of, and seeing just these people that, a lot of the crew are not runners. They're important people that bring out the depths in you that you want there when you're in a tough moment or you're in a joyful moment. Those are the important people, and at least that's what I see. That's how I view it. And I was telling the story the other day about seeing the overnight crew cars that are lined up and all the crew is like passed out sleeping. And it is like the cutest thing, because all day they've given just as much as you have, if not more. Like, you're physically out there and you're giving it what you got, but you're out there because it's your sport and it's important to you. Then you have someone who is volunteering their time to make what's important to you important to them. And they've been up all day with you, getting you to the finish line. And it's 3, 4 in the morning and they're parked on the side of the street. Like sleep, angel, sleep.
Yeah.
But it's also like, you're out there because you're trusting that they're waiting for you and that they're going to take care of you. Right. So even though you're out there running, you're just thinking, I just need to make it to the next aid station because my people are going to be there.
Yes.
And your people are like, I mean, I just experienced like a snippet of that when we had the relay of like, okay, do we have enough time to like go wait for them a mile down the road and like catch them and cheer them on?
Yeah.
And then, okay, can we go? And like, here's the next stop and here, all of that. And it does take up energy in a very, very different way. And I love that you mentioned the crew, because that's something that prior to this episode coming out, I'll have an episode on building your support crew. And I talk about the importance of getting people who aren't runners that are a part of your support crew, because those people, for me and in my life, the non-runners remind me that I'm more than just a runner, that I'm a human being that exists outside of this sport. I love this sport so much, but there are moments where I get really down on myself because I don't perform how I want to. And when I come home, I'm still mom, I'm still staff, I'm still wife. The laundry still needs to get done. Like, life continues on, and it's frustrating. But then at the same time, it's also like, yeah, this running thing that I love, it's just a part of my identity. It's not the wholeness of who I am. So I love that you point out the the crew, because it is like you need those people who just they're going to love you just for finishing. They're not going to care how you do. They're there because they love you. And that, again, for me, it's so important to have those people who aren't runners, because those are the people that are going to love you. I mean, anyone who's in your support crew, support network, they should love you regardless. But I love the people who aren't runners because they just don't get it. And yet they still show up for you. And it's so nice where it's like, oh, you embrace me and all the silliness that this sport
and then
can
they start to like get into it. Like they have like, they know like all about the sports, when the next races are. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like, I love how into it you are.
And like, they're not running out there, but they're strategizing.
Yeah.
They're strategizing amongst the crew to like ensure that how they can be the best support for you as the runner. Like that's pretty transformational. Like those people are giving everything that they have for you, you know?
It's empathy. And that is one of my favorite qualities in a person.
Jamie, you mentioned community of sisterhood earlier on, like at the very beginning. And I want to ask why that's important and why you two believe that's important, especially because when we look back on this whole Women on the Rise, it was about community with women. So for both of you, why is it important that we work on building that, work on cultivating it, and highlighting it? Because that, for me, I love this event. I love the series event because I'm all about female empowerment. That's why there's only female voices on this podcast. And that's, so why is that important?
I think to me, it's like the relatability with each other, but yet there are so many differences between us all. But there's like a common bond. And I think empowering everyone's differences and coming together on them is just, it's important to me to lift people in general, but women together, I think, can be so strong, having the support of each other behind them. And maybe it did start from like a very young age in terms of like what I saw that I didn't like. Like I was not a huge fan of drama. And when people would talk about each other, and especially girls, like in school and stuff, that was hard for me. And I was a lot of times a target of it, I think, because I tried so hard to get so many groups of people together. Like, again, I'm talking like as a kid in school, like, but it made me uncomfortable when people were not lifting each other. And I always wanted to be such an advocate for the other, like the one that maybe wasn't getting, like, why aren't we lifting this person up? And like, let's include them. Let's come sit with me. Why aren't you sitting with anyone? Like, and I think that just stuck throughout my life. Like, it is a very important thing to me to bring people together, especially women, because I think it's not rare, because you do see it all the time, but I feel like you see it when it's, posted about or talked about or whatever. But, you can go anywhere and see people looking at each other like, and I don't like that. I don't like it at all. I think if you're going to wear it, or you're going to, cut your hair like that, or you're going to, if you like it, you strut it, work it, kill it. Like, I mean, and who is anyone to say not to do that? And I just think we should always build up someone. Like there's no other reason to do something different.
I mean, like mic drop, like we are strong. We are strong. We are capable. We feel so deeply. And I think sometimes we forget that. And I think it's our responsibility to remind each other that, like, you can do this and you are strong. You are stronger than you think, and when we're together, we're even stronger.
Yeah.
Carrie Gerson, who's another Lululemon ambassador, she just, she says, like, together we can. like together we can do anything, especially when we're in it, as a team, as a partnership, and so that like sticks with me a lot. I feel like women are targeted for a lot of things. I think there's a lot of fear, and I'll speak for myself and just in general, with like running and safety. And I think when I'm running, there's so many things that I think about and what gets me to the finish line often. And I think Steph, you shared it earlier, but like, I'm a mom and I have been through some shit in my life, and I remember like what it's like to struggle, and then I came out of it and like, here I am. And that's empowering for me, and I think strength, and I think capability, I think relentlessness, like resilience, like we are all of that. And I think we need each other. And I'm not afraid to ask for that support. Like I need a hug. I'm such a hugger, y'all. I like freaking love hugging, and I love hugging like other women because I feel just like so connected. Jamie, you shared it. It's like relatability. I see you, and all that you are and all that you've maybe been through because you've shared it. And I'm with you. And there's something really special about like that, like feminine energy, that creates like, just like resilience. The resilience is something that just, it just like, it shines really bright with women. And I think, and in this community. So.
And I think you can use each other's confidence. Like maybe you're not feeling the greatest, like one day or however, but your friend walks in and she's feeling great. So you all of a sudden feel great. Like, or they use that to help you feel great. Like, no, like, let's do this. Like, let's put this bright lipstick on or something, like, let's get it, and I think that it just is like, okay, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it now, so even if you're not feeling the greatest, I think leaning into your community, like we don't have to bring someone down because we're not feeling the greatest. Let's use each other too. Like, let's ask for help. Let's say that I need a little help here today. I'm not feeling the greatest. I think vulnerability is something that is tough to share, but also important to share. And it brings people closer together, I think. Opening, like that openness.
Yeah, it creates like courage, and like there's so much bravery. I think there's so much bravery in women. It's like, it's so inspiring, when someone opens like their heart to share, you like feel it, and Jamie, we've kind of built that, man, for this experience, y'all. Jamie and I talk every single week. What's missing? What do we need to do? What do we need to do? So, just like sharing a lot of even vulnerability in that has helped continue to bring that and foster that like connection and like strength and empowerment with all these other incredible women, like I feel more connected to you, Steph. I feel more connected to Karen and Carrie and like Anna, like it's and Gri, like it's just such a beautiful, such a beautiful journey to like lift other women up, and to like remember that together we can.
I love that. Because it's true, right? Like we're kind of a mirror for one another. And when we see someone living boldly, whether it's because they're wearing the right lipstick or because they're opening their heart to you.
Color of your lashes.
Yeah, the color of your lashes. Absolutely. Like that does inspire you. And I feel like there's enough in society that tells us to be less or to be quiet. But when you see a woman being loud and being proud and smiling and crying and just whatever it is that she's in her feelings, it is a beautiful sight to behold. And even then, like I find it for myself in those moments where I start to judge of like, oh my God, I can't believe it's like, wait a minute, is that me? Or is that society's conditioning that's telling me to be judgmental? And it's so it's really interesting. And that's part of why I like to build community with women, because society in general has us or wants us to operate in a very masculine way, in a very like it's results and it's productive. And there's a deep desire in me to be like, no, man, I just want to be soft. I just want to cuddle. I just want to tell my girlfriends how much I love them and how beautiful I think they are. And it feels like a reclamation. For me, building community with women, it feels like a reclamation of that sisterhood, a reclamation. I don't know. Listen, maybe it's just me, but when one of my friends tells me I look beautiful, it just carries such a different weight than when my husband tells me I look beautiful. Such a different way. And I love my husband and like I love it and I appreciate it. But when one of my girlfriends says, Steph, I'm like, oh, I'm lighter. I just feel lighter. Like my shoulders go back and I'm like, yeah, I am that bitch. Like, yes, I am going to own it. Right. Like there's just a difference. There's a difference because for me, when it comes from a woman, I know they don't want anything in return. Whereas when it comes from my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have to give him a hug now or like a kiss or something like there's a different relationship dynamic there that comes from it. So for me, that's why I love building relationships with women. All right. I'm cognizant of time. So I have 3 more questions for you all. This one is it's related to this episode. We've talked about it, but I want each of you to give our listeners one how to. So if they come up to you and they're like, I'm new, I don't have the community, how do I build it? What is your response to that person? How do I build it? How do I create it? How do I join it? Whatever it is, what is your response? Maybe Jamie, for you, it's looking back at young Jamie in Naples. How did she do it?
She kept showing up. She, like there have been so many times, so many classes, so many run clubs. There's one person in it. There's no people in it. There's, thought it was going to be 10. Everybody cancels at the last moment. But I was always there. So I think what the takeaway is that, yes, it has been 10 years that I've been like building this. And some days, some months are faster than others. Some are, but I never stopped having passion for what I love. So just because there wasn't like a lot of people from the start, how are you supposed to start with a lot of people when you move somewhere and you don't know anyone? So I think of just putting yourself out there and sharing what you love and showing up for it. And people see that you show up for what you love. And I think that has to do with like being loyal to what you stand for. I would say that is how you do it. You just stick with your passion and keep showing up for it. And you will start to have that like trail behind you eventually.
Yeah. That's so good. And I see that like you show up relentlessly, and you do that for running, you do that for your friends, you do that for the people like in your life. I told you before, I'm like, I just admire the friend that you are. Like you are truly just like a gem.
Thank you.
I love you.
You are too? Like you are too?
Okay. So, I think for me, it's like listening. It's like, I think it starts with listening. Like I listen with my whole heart, like to you, because you matter. And what you're sharing with me is like creating an impact. And I can like, that's something that then I can like remember or take out and then like find a way to like be of service to that person that shared it with me. Because I remember that she shared that, I don't know, that she has this big dream that she wants to be a part of something bigger, or even that she loves orange cream soda. Like, I don't know. I just think that it matters. Like it matters to like listen and to show up for the other person, the other people. So listening, I think being of service to other people, and ensuring that you always feel included. And that's like 2 people, it's 3 people, it's 100 people, it's 1,000 people that like, when you show up, like I see you and like you matter. That to me is community. It's like amplification of other people. Like, it's not about me. It can't be about me. Like I can be the container to hold the space and to share the idea and to request the funding, which we got, not just for this, but in general. And And I don't like, that's like a power that I get to have to then share with others, you know, and like, yeah, just, and even Steph, when you shared earlier about your goals with the podcast, and my mind is turning, like, how can I amplify that? You know, how can I be an advocate for the work that you're passionate about and share with more people, you know, or like, how do we brainstorm to get funding? You know, like, I'm thinking about how to make your dreams, like, you know, like, come alive. It sounds so cliche, but I like believe that, like, those dreams matter. So yeah, just listening and listening for how you can be of service.
I love that. And I just wrote it down because I feel like there's like 4 takeaways from what I've heard both of you talk about. And it's show up, share the dream, share the desire, share the want. Whether you are someone who wants to start walking, share that with someone. Call someone up and say, hey, I want to go for a walk. Can you come with me? So it's that showing up, just keep showing up. And Jamie, I think part of what you're creating too is that, or I think about it for myself, where showing up takes risk, and you're not guaranteed that people are going to show up as well. And you just got to keep on doing it. So showing up, sharing, listening to the people around you, listening when you're in community, listen to them. Because again, I'm going to go back to that person who's a walker, right? Maybe they're out with their friends, and someone who's like an acquaintance, but not really a friend, you overhear them say, oh, I really want to start walking, or I want to sign up for this race, but I don't want to do it by myself. But because you're present and you're listening, you can be like, hey, I'm here. I'm the friend. I'm the one. Let's go. And then taking action on that. Like, you show up, you listen, you share your desires, and then you take action. And from your action, it really does ripple out. When people see what you're doing, they're going to get curious and they're going to want to do as well. So those were like the 4. I'm like, that's what it is. It's here's a little recipe for people if they want to take that with them. All right, second to last question. This is a question both of you have kind of touched upon, but it is a question I ask in every single episode. And the question is, how do we make running more accessible and inclusive?
Want to go?
I feel like Jamie has the answer.
I can go. I think running, and I think running is one of the most inclusive and accessible things you can do. And that's just my perspective, because you can put shoes on. If you want to be a runner, you do not have to be in the best gear. You really don't. It does make it more comfortable. It does make it maybe a little bit more like doable, but you don't need it to do the sport. What you need is yourself, the outside, and a pair of socks and a pair of shoes. And you start with walking, and then you can run a little bit. Like, that's what got me interested in running, is that I didn't feel that I needed all of this gear to start. I felt like with some of the other things that I was trying to identify with after gymnastics involved equipment and you know, all this stuff. And I didn't know like what to buy. Like, I tried tennis and I didn't know what racket to buy. And I didn't know what like things I needed to like have the best experience. Because you do need a racket to play tennis. You don't need a watch to go running. You know, you can run without those things. Again, I do think that obviously once I got into a more serious, you get into it and then those things come along. But I do think that it is accessible to start. And that is my view.
Wow.
And I want people to know that, because I think sometimes like gear and the way that like society is now, and like I have the best this, I have the most expensive this, I don't think that goes hand in hand with starting to run. I don't. I think it might look like it does, but it doesn't. And you can start running literally by putting on a pair of socks and even a Converse. If you wanted to go for your first run, you could probably make it a mile in a Converse. I don't suggest it to continue, but you could make it.
You're like, don't quote me on that.
I was going to say, I'll take the quote. I will take the quote, but you have to have that whole part in there. I don't suggest it, but you could make it.
Yeah. I think it's challenging. I think running is, a relatively accessible sport. I think in the realm of like, do you have a nearby neighborhood that's safe? Like that could be a limitation to accessibility. I think, I think shoes sometimes, like you mentioned, you don't have to have the carbon shoes that cost $275, to be able to run, but it can be a limitation for other people. So I see that. I think I'm very aware of like what that entails. So I do think there are limitations, and I believe that. And I think two things. So I think one, how, like, it goes back to like the sharing, how can you, if someone shares that they are like inkling towards wanting to maybe walk or run more, and they maybe don't feel safe where they are, like, can you be that person to take them somewhere that they could feel safe, to go walking, whether it's on a treadmill or whether it's like in a different neighborhood, and you can be that like hand to lend out to someone. Because I do think that is something that could be limitation. So I see it. I think the word run itself, this may be like kind of controversial, but I think the word run itself may not necessarily be very inclusive, because like, you have walkers that like walk a marathon, and like, is that considered running? Like, of course it is, but like the word run is different than walk, So I think sometimes reminding people that moving forward is running, is walking, is jogging, whatever that is. Cause I think when I started running, I thought I needed to like be on like running track to run a marathon. I was like, there's no way I can run a marathon at like a 7-minute pace. Like, I just can't do that. And I thought that that's what I needed to do to be a runner. And I didn't know that I could like run a mile and then walk 2 miles. Like, I didn't know that I could do that. And that to me was like such a reminder when somebody else shared that, with me. So, I think there's opportunity still, and like maybe not that we can like always like solve for, but I think shoes could be a limitation. I think safe like environments could be a limitation. And I think it takes somebody else to like take them with you, and share and remind that like we can walk, and like we're moving together in this space, and that you're a runner, whether you're walking or jogging or skipping, maybe not standing, like I said yesterday, but if you're walking, like you're moving forward, and like you are a runner, like you are a runner with me. And so, yeah, I think the stigma of the word run sometimes can be construed differently. And so I'm just like aware of that. Even when we do like run club, I'm like, you can walk, this is a club that we're moving forward together. So, just aware of those like limitations, and I don't like take that for granted. That's why like it was so cool to be able to give shoes for Blissfield 2 in the relay, and to give shoes for trail, because you may have shown up to the Everglades and been like, I don't have the right shoes. We were on the pavement, but I think just like that, giving and really kind of supporting that accessibility piece.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, because that is something that I think the sport of running is so beautiful, but there's a lot of nuances to it. And I mean, for me, that's why I started running, because the accessibility, it was easy for me, but it was easy for me because I lived in a neighborhood where I felt safe. It was easy for me because I lived in a neighborhood where there were sidewalks. It was easy for me because I did have the means to buy the shoes that made it more comfortable, that made me want to keep doing it. It was easy for me because I had the money to buy a jogging stroller, right? That's when I started running. Those are all those things that were really, it was easy as well because I had the time to do it, right? Like I had the time and the availability, and I had the support at home for people to watch my children so that I could go and do the runs. So I find that it is a very nuanced thing, because it is a sport that is easily accessible, and yet there's layers to it. To me, it's like an onion. There's layers to it where it may not be as accessible to some people as it is to others. And part of why I asked this question is because I think it's so important for us to just have the conversation, so that we can build the awareness, and so that this conversation, much like the community that we're building, it can ripple beyond us. Of when you go out for your run, and this is something like I talked about with someone else, where I love where I run. And Cristina, right? Like, if you're familiar with it, Old Cutler, beautiful street, beautiful road, but the lighting sucks. The sidewalks are wonderful, but they have roots. And if you're not paying attention, you can fall, you can twist. So it's like even something like that, where it's just, again, it's that awareness of, even if you have the space, it may not be the most optimal for you. But I love the idea of that invitation for all of us, of if there's someone who wants to try it, but they're not sure it's for them, or they don't feel safe, or they don't know, like, dude, offer yourself up to that. I have a lot of running shoes. So if there's ever someone that's like, I'm a size 7.5 and I can't run, I'll be like, here you go. Just borrow a pair, borrow a pair. You can keep them if you want, totally fine. So I appreciate both of you answering that question and then sharing your thoughts, because this sport is so wonderful. And there is a lot of running it's beautiful, but yeah, people have all these notions as to what running is. And for me, I'm like, running is just, even if you're walking, you're just walking faster than you normally walk, right? Like, you're not going out and just like cruising. No, like let's put some effort into it. It's the intention of your movement. That to me is what running is. And yet people think running has to be a certain pace, or that you have to do races, which, again, like, newsflash to people, you don't have to do races to be a runner. You don't have to do any of that. Like, don't worry about it. So I thank you both for sharing your thoughts. Okay, final question here, and it's a two-parter, is where can we find out more about you? And do you have anything coming up that we can celebrate you in?
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. Cristina Isabel Ramirez, no H in my name. And you can, I work at Lululemon, and I love community, and I love people, and I love like building something with someone else. Like, I'm not great by myself, but with someone else, like, it's really magical. And I like recognize that. And I think coming up, we've had a lot of things coming up. So I am really excited to go on vacation. You can celebrate me in like stepping away and like really, like prioritizing my kids, and my husband. And we are, we're going to Seattle. We're going to visit 3 national parks in the Pacific Northwest. I will be in nature and in community with these animals in the wilderness, and really just like, honestly, like, I'm in community with my family, because that is community. And I think I want to make sure my kids feel included, in that. And so that's a really big piece of all of that. So like, yes, I can continue to give and be of service in the community, with my job and my work and what I love to do. And I think it's also really important for me to like fill my cup up, and really just like be outside and not necessarily need to be tied to a computer or like go somewhere because someone needs something. It's like, I need these 2 weeks to disconnect. And I'm committed to disconnecting. I will share photos on Instagram, but yeah, just committed to disconnecting and really giving my kids and my husband all the attention. I think that's really important.
Cristina, I love that. And I'm so excited for you and your vacation. So I am also on Instagram, mad for marathons.
Yes.
So MAD and then 4 marathons. And I agree. I feel like this last like 6 months of, even here, like in Naples with it being season, and I run a small business of fitness and coaching, and all of it has been so great. It just, when things happen so back to back, the energy is just so there all the time, which is great. And I love that. I have a few things planned, like at the end of the year and then into the next year, like with races and things, but I am going to continue the summer, just same kind of thing, relaxing and enjoying my friends and family. I'm going to take a few like small trips, but yeah, I have some concerts planned, but just some like fun, light things. So yeah.
Celebrating the community that you're a part of, right?
Yeah.
And like getting back to the roots of that for both of you.
Like
I love that.
in. There's so much to soak in, and like I think there's a lot into like slowing down, you know. What was it that she said? Like you can slow down, but just keep moving forward.
Yeah, she said you don't have to stop. You can just slow down.
Yes. We're gonna slow down this summer.
I just like hear that all the time. You don't have to stop. You just slow down.
Yeah, I love that. She has inspired me. I'm gonna keep that in my.
I know. I'll tag her.
Yeah.
You'll be like, we talked about you quite a bit today.
I know. She's probably like, oh, what is my ears ringing?
It's ringing, it's itching, whatever it is that it's doing. Thank you both for being here with me today to talk about building community, to talk about the power of community. And I just loved speaking to both of you. And kind of, I feel like for me, at least, this caps off my Woman on the Rise Lululemon experience. Like this to me is like that final processing moment of like, we did it. We did it. We did it. And I think of like the dream that Jamie had. I'm sure when you were dreaming that, you didn't think that you were going to come on a podcast to talk about it. And here you are. So again, it's that the planting of the seed and then trusting that it's going to grow and trusting that the people who are going to nourish it are going to come around to water it and that you've done your job. So thank you both for creating, for dreaming together, for executing, and then for encouraging all of us to dream big as well. But not just dream big, share the dream. Share the dream because you never know who is around you that can support you, that can uplift you, and that can amplify the dream to a place that goes beyond dreaming and into reality. So thank you both. Y'all have any final words for us?
Just thank you. Thank you.
You are amazing, Steph. Like you are amazing. The way that you engage, your passion, like I don't take that for granted, you know, like the time that you put into this. Like I hope you feel seen. You are extraordinary. You're an incredible leader and incredible mom. And I'm just like, I really am like proud to know you, truly. And so I know we've been in relationship for a few years and so much more to come. So girl, we friends for life. Thank you for saying yes to this.
Jamie, anything else?
Thank you guys both so much. Seriously, I've loved this. I've loved this moment and the space with you guys together. And it caps off, like, again, I'm so emotional, but it just like caps off the last couple months. And I'm so happy to have seen how the connection of one idea has reached so many people.
And
my God. And we're going to leave it at that. Everyone, thanks for listening. See you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.